Welcome to the Total Football Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Declan Hart, and I'm joined by Andrew Conway.
Hello.
As this week we look back on all the football action across Europe and also discuss whether survival is more important than the football itself.
"16 goals scored and only 4 conceded last Saturday for the supposed top 6. We are now 6 games into the new Premier League season, and with Arsenal yet to play at the time of recording, the top six is starting to take shape. It was fun while it lasted, but teams like Newcastle, Watford and even Huddersfield are gone from the top of the table, and we are back to normal service being resumed. Declan, I want to this week speak to you about the death of the importance of football.
Nonsense.
This week in the top leagues, and we'll just take the top 4 leagues because we leave France out of it for the time being, but in Italy, Germany, England and Spain, the top teams that played all won.
Except Bayern.
Bayern won.
They drew.
This weekend.
They drew 2-2.
Oh, well, you've ruined my whole argument already. I misread
I just thought of that there.
Thank you. Thank you for destroying the podcast in the first few minutes.
Well, that's it for this week's show.
My point is that the top teams, even if they're dropping points, even if there is some kind of narrative the way there was in the Liverpool match, who managed to scrape a win against Leicester City. Scrape a win, I might add. A win is a win is a win.
Yeah, that's what they always say.
Did anything happen of any consequence? Like, you said that the top 6, or I said in the introduction, that suppose top 6 are now settling into position in the Premier League. The top, I know, at the moment, Real Madrid are 7 points adrift of the top spot in La Liga.
And Bayern are 3 behind Dortmund.
3 behind Dortmund. But then Dortmund are a top team, are they not? How many points have Dortmund this season? 16
out of 18.
Yeah, exactly. And how many... That's my point. And how many teams in Italy have maximum points?
2.
2 teams have maximum points after, 6 games?
6 games in Italy too.
Like, that is ridiculous. Like that, these teams...
No, but is it? No, but these top teams, they should be winning every week, in theory.
In theory.
And they should be taking the points against themselves.
But what's the point of these minnows then, these supposed
Because
minnows,
sometimes they don't always win, and that's football.
Is it?
Yeah, that's the meaning of football.
I want to take, this is a view of US sports almost. I want to take this view of it. That when this happens in US sports, when teams stop mattering, when they stop caring. Now, there are fail-safes in US sports, which we can come to.
Yeah, there's no relegation or anything.
Well, there's other things that happen.
Yeah.
Franchises, as they call them, clubs,
yeah.
Teams in America, cease to exist in these types of instances. When they become a Stoke, when they become a Real Mallorca, when they become a Sassuolo, when they become Hanover in Germany, or Leipzig, which are, in historic
times.
Leipzig
can...
This season, yes, but that we come around to it. But in historic times, they're nothing. They're nothing. In American sport, that's not allowed. You're a minor league team now. You don't deserve to be a major league team. You aren't in the NFL anymore. Or removing that, we're going from St. Louis to LA. Los Angeles. And they weren't in St. Louis very long even before that, weren't they not?
No, I don't think so.
Not historically.
Yeah.
Or we're the LA Lakers.
Yeah.
And we go from Colorado to LA where there are no lakes. Those type of situations. That's what happens in American sport. It's cutthroat. Now, they have fail-safes in place where the worst team in the league gets the best players. They get the best players.
Yeah, because of the draft.
That type of situation happens. That's never going to happen in football.
No.
Not in...
Well, that's the kind of ironic thing is in politics. You would see, America, obviously, the home of capitalism, basically.
And they
have a socialist approach to sport. And then in Europe...
They won't like that.
No.
I don't know. You let us know, listeners. You let us know.
Yeah.
Do you think it's an American sport?
Any Americans listening, please let us know
your opinions on it. We could be completely wrong. We're open to correction. But for football in Europe, in the top leagues, in the Champions League, winning leagues...
Yeah.
Why? Tottenham won 3-2. Wow. They conceded a few goals. Liverpool, they were winning comfortably, conceded a few goals, still won.
Yeah, but it's about how they won and how that will reflect upon them in the coming 32 games left in the season and in Europe.
And how will it
because
affect them, do you think?
I don't know.
What is the narrative you want to push?
I don't know.
We talk about West Ham for several weeks now. They keep losing. Their manager is still in the job.
Well, that's because West Ham have shown a history of kind of
apathy, appeasement.
Maybe not apathy, but they take too long to pull the trigger on a decision.
Gianfranco Zola comes to mind. Avram Grant getting...
Gianfranco Zola came 7th with them, though, didn't he?
Yeah, and then he just withered away, and then they got relegated.
Big Sam.
Big Sam, nobody liked Big Sam at the club. He was great for the club. He kept them up. He kept them alive.
Yeah, and then they brought in Bilic.
And he did great work for the club.
In the first season.
You can't deny it. Even the second season. Less impressive, but they're still comfortably in the mid-table.
Well, I wouldn't say comfortably. I wouldn't say comfortably. Well, if you look at the way the systems
were in the league.
Well, if you look at the way the points went, like West Ham were in the relegation conversation coming into May.
I suppose they're in the conversation. Not realistically going
down.
But
it was a case of if they didn't beat Swansea, they could have gone down.
The title conversation, even though it's not realistic that they're ever going to break that duck. They have some kind of psychological barrier. It's like that West Ham, but in reverse.
Yeah.
I don't know. You say, okay, West Ham, they may have one. Leicester may have a narrative. But what about Stoke and what about Crystal Palace? Two teams which are, if not perennially down in the relegation areas, they're in the conversation, to use your parlance.
I will give it to you that there's not much to be learned by Man City beating Crystal Palace 5-0 in what was the most predictable scoreline imaginable.
Yeah.
Because
why was it so predictable? Tell me why it's so predictable.
Because the pattern, the narrative, as we've been speaking about, is that Palace just to them survival is more important than anything else. Staying in the Premier League.
Was a 5-0 defeat not destroyed?
No, and that's because of their short-term very short-term appointment of Frank de Boer, and then ripping up his idea of what the club should be and bringing in a complete opposite in Roy Hodgson.
But why does a 5-0 not impact upon that new manager's bounce? The perceived
because Man City are just so good.
But I watched this match, and I don't when I watch this match. Multiple instances of Man City attacks. They did not have superior numbers. They did not have fantastic opportunities. Crystal Palace did not make horrific mistakes leaving openings. It was a case, often it was, a player would run down the side of whatever flank they were on, square the ball, and then a Crystal Palace player who outnumbered the Man City players just wouldn't close them down quick enough. The Man City players weren't electrifying with their pace. They weren't completely outskilling these people with a wonderful, magnificent piece of skill. I remember one of the goals Aguero was well in his own half when he played the ball forward, and I think Sterling ended up putting it in the back of the net. They're not under immense pressure. They're not trying to track Sergio Aguero into his own half. They're still there. They're there to defend. They're put up a wall. And this wall is just bypassed, as if you were shooting, as if it was a wall made of paper and you were shooting it with water guns through it. That just little holes and they end up in the back of the net.
But that's a case of Crystal Palace just being the worst team in the league and Man City being the best team in the league.
That's going back to my point. What's the point of it?
Because these matches have to happen.
But why?
Because sometimes you never know. Crystal Palace on another day, they might actually get something from Man City.
Which brings me over to the Stoke versus Chelsea match. Stoke have taken 4 points in their previous matches from Man United and Arsenal.
Yeah.
What happened at the Britannia this time?
I think they just have a psychological problem with Chelsea.
Where does that come from? How does that materialize?
Because you look at the previous meetings between the two sides at the Britannia and you see the Chelsea generally, besides the Mourinho season, when they lost to everyone, they generally just tend to roll over for Chelsea. I don't know what it is about Chelsea specifically, but Stoke just seem they up their game for Arsenal, they up their game for Man United, they up their game for Man City and Liverpool. But there's something about Chelsea that they just don't.
There's something there with them. I don't understand it. That's the bit I'm trying to understand is when this type of stuff, back to the comparison with US sports, if this type of stuff happens in US sport, they change it up. They have such a flexibility in the sport and okay, this isn't working, this division is dying, or this rivalry doesn't work anymore. What's the point in playing this team versus this team when it's a complete washout every time?
No, but then what's your solution then? Relegate 10 teams from the Premier League and have it be a 10-team league?
Maybe change the format of it. Bring in more incentive for these mid-ranking teams to try harder.
What would be your
better. Because clearly money isn't a motivating factor for any of these clubs anymore. They all make an immense.
Well, no, it's a motivating factor in the sense that they sacked Frank de Boer after 4 matches because they're desperate
for that.
He does, but the ultimate goal of staying in the Premier League is what they sacked him for.
So in fact, what we're saying now is that money is maybe a demotivating factor for...
It's a deterrent to good football, you could argue.
That all this wealth in the Premier League has made these clubs trigger happy terrified of their own demise, terrified of becoming a Leeds United, a Wigan Athletic, a Charlton Athletic, who've plummeted down the
No,
tables.
but the problem with that argument, though, as well, is that, and financial fair play has been a thing that's been brought up a lot. Like Arsene Wenger came out recently and said that he's lost faith in the system. But a lot of people argue, it's like, oh, PSG are a lot of people's kind of breaking point with financial fair play. Yeah. But the bigger or the broader point with financial fair play is like, look at how many teams have suffered like Leeds United did or like Portsmouth did post financial fair play. Like how many, like the teams that have...
I wouldn't... Why have they suffered? Because they were imposed with slight fines?
Because the clubs nearly went out of existence.
But that wasn't as a result of financial fair play.
No, but it was before financial fair play. When teams...
correct. Yeah, I'm all for financial fair play. I don't think financial fair play has negatively affected football that much.
No, I think it's a great thing that's come in.
But what's that got to do with the narrative of clubs that have nothing to
Because
play
you were
for
talking
existing?
about clubs falling into the pit of becoming Leeds United and Portsmouth.
But that is through the falling through the league structure. Because they're spending, because football inflation and the spending on clubs has gone way beyond any means that we could have.
Yeah, it's a complete bubble.
Yeah, it certainly sounds that way and appears that way to any economic observers, eyes who look at football. They see that this cannot be sustainable. But if we were to jump away from England for a moment and we look at Spain, a place where there isn't this economic bubble per se, a lot of these clubs, they don't make outrageous signings. They don't pay their players outrageous sums of money.
No, but there are two teams that do.
There are two teams that do. And those two teams just wipe out almost all of the opposition. And why, when we're saying that, Man City, Crystal Palace losing 5-0 to Man City is the most predictable result you could have expected this weekend. That mirrors what happens in Spain almost every week. Almost every week, one of the big Spanish sides are expected to decimate their opposition, presuming they're not playing one of the other big Spanish sides. Why is that? Do the teams not? They don't try. It's perceived that a lot of these teams just, we're playing Barcelona, it's a write-off. Like you're saying, like, Crystal Palace aren't expected to beat Man City, so we'll write it off.
No, but they aren't. But historically, in the Premier League, anyway, we've seen it happen.
They try.
They happen more. It happens more often.
But it's changing.
That's why. Like,
how many times Man City won 5-0 this season?
Well, one of them was against Liverpool. I think that was.
Well, that was a bit of a freak, but still, it counts.
It does, yeah.
How many times have Man
They
United
beat
won?
Watford 6-0 as well.
And 6-0. And how many times Man United won 4-0?
Three times?
Out of 6 matches.
Yeah.
And there's still other teams that are.
But I think the point more,
Chelsea.
Like if you look at the Man United wins, it's not a case of Man United were far superior to the other team and rolled them over 4-0 pretty quickly. It was a case of they got one goal, and then the other team tried to attack and tried to get an equaliser, but then United caught them on the break. And once they went 2-0 up, it was so late in the game that there was no point in trying to get a third or one back because they just have to get another one back after that, after already struggling.
So they're beating already.
Yeah, so they're once they get 2-0 up, it's just the end of the match.
But that's the way a lot of teams feel when they're in, like we speak about Germany. I know Bayern didn't win this weekend, despite my somehow believing that they had.
They were 2-0 up against...
I might have just switched off after that. They've won.
Yeah, because I almost made the same mistake. I did see that it was 2-0. I was like, there's no point kind of looking at that now. It's over. But they were playing Hamburg, was it?
I have completely... I'm doubting myself over whether they exist anymore.
Well, as far as I know, it finished 2-2 in that match. I
went
confirm.
Over Borussia Dortmund winning 6-1.
6-1, yeah.
And they could have had way more. They was just completely...
It was Wolfsburg, by the way.
Wolfsburg they were playing on Friday evening.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Borussia Dortmund won 6-1, and it could have been way more. And Mönchengladbach,
but they did concede their first goal in the league this season.
Yeah, and they were very disappointed about it, and it was an absolute calamity. It was defensive errors, and they missed clearing the ball, everything like that. But that's no excuse. Like as we said before, what does it matter when they win 6-1? What does it matter that Liverpool conceded 2 goals against Leicester?
No, but I don't know if you've looked at either the Guardian or any of the big.
But it's their job to craft a narrative to sell newspapers and to drive clicks.
But that's football.
That's not football. That's football journalism.
No, but people are talking about this Liverpool defence everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but
they won. What does it matter?
Well,
they arrested their defeats.
It's a case of
and their lack of wins.
It's a case of they've had a poor defensive display throughout the season.
But they played, okay, but this Liverpool match, we'll use that as an example.
Yeah.
Liverpool play as a happy coincidence. They played Leicester City in midweek.
Yeah.
And they lost comfortably.
Yeah, but it
were
was two
beaten off
different.
the
It wasn't
field.
the same Liverpool side, nor was it the same Leicester side that played in that match.
But you'd expect that both teams would put more into the Premier League, correct?
Yeah,
That's acknowledged. That is the way things are. There's more money in it than the Carabao Cup.
yeah,
And Liverpool went and won that match.
yeah. They won the match that mattered.
Convincingly. They won that match. Now, defensively, they may have had a few, iffy moments, but they won the match.
Yeah, but there's stuff to be learned from how they won the match.
There is. I've no doubt about that. But I don't know how constructive that will be in the grander scheme of things.
In the grander scheme of things, I don't think we'll look back on this 3-2 win and go, "Oh, we learned. We could write a book on what we learned."
Yeah.
But it's just something to keep us going week by week.
I know, but this is the thing, is like there was a time, and I know we're not that far removed, and I'm playing a bit of devil's advocate throughout this whole topic just to get a rise out of my colleague, that matches mattered. Every match counted. Any team could beat any other team.
But did it though? And when you look at when it was the top four, back when Benitez, Mourinho, and Ferguson and Wenger,
There was a period between the
They
mid to late 90s.
completely owned the league, and it looked like it would last forever.
Yeah.
Like it's not even as bad as it was then. Now, like it's not like that right now.
Well,
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
There's
This
certainly
season.
potential
We're only-
for us to get there.
Bear in mind, we're 6 matches into the season. We're
Yeah.
writing its death sentence already. It's huge.
I still think this is a promising season, and it could be one of the more exciting seasons
Don't know about being exciting.
in recent years.
I
In
think-
terms of,
I do not think it's over yet. That's for sure. I do not think Man City have.
you know, like the title race is not over. You can't rule out either Manchester Club or
I can't
Chelsea.
rule out anybody. It's only 6 games in.
Yeah,
Like anyone could have a terrible.
Leicester could win it again.
As we said last week, I know it's changed this week because Arsenal played the game less. But if Arsenal won against Chelsea, they could have gone third.
Yeah.
After their abysmal start, where they lost 2 matches.
Yeah,
You know,
that's just you can't really look at the table.
no,
But that's a different argument too. The matches don't matter.
the matches don't matter until we can look at the table later on the season. It's something that's crept in. In France, it's a joke in France. I know PSG, lacking Neymar, managed not to win this weekend. But everyone knows PSG are going to win the league. There's no real, people have vain hopes that Monaco could mount a challenge. Monaco lost 5-0.
No, but that's why we don't. That's why in UEFA coefficients and even just in the general consensus, the Ligue 1 is not considered the best league in the world.
No, it's not in the top 4. But
Yeah, it's the 5th best league,
yeah.
and it's because of that.
True, but then we go to Spain, and
Which
people are saying
I suppose can be considered the best league in the world by some.
By the UEFA coefficient, it is the best league in the world.
Certainly, by European competition, they dominate.
Zinedine Zidane said today in his presser for his match in Dortmund tomorrow that he watches European football and he doesn't think Germany is anywhere near the standard of Spanish football. That they don't play as hard, they're not as technical, and they're not as tactically sophisticated as the Spanish game. And that's why Real Madrid are going to easily win. That's an audacious statement, and it comes from Zinedine Zidane. I suppose a World Cup, European Championship, European Cup winning player and European Cup winning manager can say that at the biggest club in the world when he has Cristiano Ronaldo and Gareth Bale.
Yeah, but I wouldn't necessarily agree with his assessment.
Well, no, and that's there's subject to talk there, and I know he's probably just kind of wind up.
Yeah, there is
players.
definitely a part of that to it as well.
So, but he himself acknowledged it, that maybe these leagues aren't up to the standard of him. But that makes you think, if these leagues aren't up, if this German league isn't up to his standard of Spanish football, why do so many teams just roll over in Spain? Why do so many teams in these different leagues in England, where it's crept in Germany, where it's happened from time to time with the big with Bayern Munich,
Yeah,
sometimes with Dortmund, as it happened this weekend, where it's definitely a part of football in Spain.
yeah.
Why is it creeping in everywhere? Even Italy. Italy is renowned for a country where they would actually have respect. Goal difference never really mattered hugely. And they had respect for the other clubs, that if they were destroying a club, they'd slow down and they'd stop. That was a perceived thing. If you were 4-0 up in Italian football, you were deemed to be showboating. In the same regard, a lot of the worst team in the world the worst country in the world for stopping playing when they're losing would be the Italians. They're known to go on summer holidays early and things like that. It's renowned and it's documented through history. So they have a different... But even there, where it goes against their culture, it's creeping in. And these matches seem to not mean anything. Why? Juventus are just destroying everyone in their wake. And this is your weak Juventus side in transition.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's creeping into Italy as much as it is in the Premier League, though. Like, Juventus, they beat Torino 4-0 this week, or was it 4-1? But I wouldn't think of many times when Juventus over the recent years have won 6 or 7-0.
It happens.
I'm sure I can't
Napoli
really...
are doing it. Napoli have scored... I think Napoli have they've scored 3 or 4 goals in the last 10 consecutive
Napoli
matches.
are, I think, an exception to the rule in Italy just because there's such a great attacking threat.
You know, but I think this is creeping in. And I don't know whether it's a shift in football tactics and strategy, the fact that no one can defend anymore, the fact, it's a lost art.
Well, I don't think defending is a lost art.
How do you say that?
Because if you look at it like goals...
Crystal Palace defending wasn't art.
No, but Man City kept a clean sheet.
They didn't face much. They were laying a blunt attack.
No, but that's the thing. Attack is the best form of defence.
Well, that's a philosophical view. But
if you look at it, I believe it was Michael Cox last week had a very good piece on ESPN about the art form of defending. He was talking about how certain players like Alan Shearer these days always go on a match of the day saying they would love to play against modern era defenders. They'd have scored way more. But he had a great breakdown of it. It was a week ago now since I've read it, so I can't remember the full point, but I would recommend...
Oh, was this when he went on about expected goals?
It wasn't expected goals. He may have brought it up kind of tangentially, but it wasn't focused primarily on expected goals.
Okay.
But he was talking about how Alan Shearer probably would have scored the same amount of goals.
Yeah, that defending hasn't dramatically changed, and even the changes in the offside rule haven't affected the amount of goals scored by league champions. And they still roughly scored the same amount of goals. They roughly win the same amount of games.
Yeah.
Like there is outliers, as there is in Spain, where they get over 100 points and they routinely score more than 100 goals.
Yeah.
But that's because they possibly have two of the best players ever in their
Only
teams.
3 times, I think, has it happened that a team has scored more than 100 goals in the Premier League.
Twice happened in one season, I imagine. Well, Man
City and Liverpool did it the one year, and Carlo Ancelotti's Chelsea did it the one
were
year
the
they
first
won the
team to do
league.
it, in a 38-match season, which is phenomenal when you think about it.
Yeah.
But what does this mean? Does this mean that there is too many matches that don't matter? That this weekend all the teams won? You could make an argument that there is narratives in some of them, as we have done so far.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, nothing came of it.
The league table didn't dramatically...
We may as well have just, picked out ducks from a pond and then let them walk towards who they decide to win.
No, but Arsenal haven't played. Liverpool earned their victory. It was a hard-fought victory, and now they are rewarded by being in 5th place, where they weren't previously. They beat a team that they've actually struggled with in recent years. That's an important thing for them, psychologically and just in terms of getting the victory. These matches do matter. If Liverpool... I think it was their last 3 visits to the King Power, they lost. So now that they've won, things have changed. They've gained 3 points that they didn't have last season. That's another way to look at it as well.
I suppose, but then if we were going to jump on the flip side of that, what about the teams that have lost all these matches? When we talked about Crystal Palace briefly there, lost 5-0, they sacked their manager De Boer. They brought in Roy Hodgson. They've completely thrown out their own little record book or book of how to do things because they're terrified of going down. They're terrified of becoming Leeds United, which not for financial reasons, but they're terrified of falling down through the leagues and just not being a proper club anymore. I want to bring in we said in the intro that we're going to discuss is survival in these big leagues more important than the football itself for the fan.
Yeah.
Is it better for Crystal Palace to just lose 5-0 without trying,
and then come back and try and win a match against an easier opponent?
When they come and play Bournemouth, they actually make an effort at it. Is that better than I often come back Kevin Kilbane, the great Irish player. Second touch was always a tackle. Kevin Kilbane. He said a great thing about his time at Wigan Athletic. He played in cup finals for Wigan Athletic. Didn't win. He wasn't part of the FA Cup winning side. But when he was at the club, he said multiple times that, they were great. They always got plaudits at the end of the season. They stayed up. They managed somehow to survive under Steve Bruce and later Roberto Mancini or Roberto Martinez.
Yeah.
Wonderful plaudits. Oh, you're great. You're going wonderful. No one remembers that now. But the Man City team that lost to that Wigan side in the FA Cup final, that Wigan side will be lauded 30, 40 years from now if
Yeah.
football's still going.
If we haven't
There
been
will
destroyed.
be a match of the day story the way there is about Sunderland in the 70s, the way there is about Southampton,
Yeah.
the way there is about these great, wonderful underdog teams, the way there is about Leicester already. He said that would be so much more important to everyone at the club
Yeah.
than anything else. And I would agree with him. I would imagine that Wigan are in...
No, but that's like the Arsene Wenger always used to treat fourth place like a trophy.
Yeah,
No one remembers when Arsenal did come fourth.
yeah. But they remember, like, the last season. Manchester United won the Europa League last season. And Liverpool finished fourth.
Yeah.
Who's going to remember that in 10 years' time? Even 10 years. That's not that long. From
Yeah, people will remember the Europa League win.
Exactly. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how they got there. They won the Europa League.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that
that's in the record book.
It is. Doesn't
It's
matter
on the
that they had an
trophy.
easy run to it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter that they played kids in the final. They won a European trophy.
Yeah.
They won a European trophy many other teams have never won.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same goes for the FA Cup wins of recent years for all the teams involved. For Portsmouth 2008, they're down in what, League One now?
Yeah, League One.
They're in League One doing okay. But they were as low as League Two. They were a victim one of these type of clubs.
Yeah, they almost went out of existence.
Almost went out of existence, into administration a couple of times, saved by the fans. They won the FA Cup. Do you think they would trade that FA Cup win for being, maybe a mid-level championship side,
they
Derby
wouldn't.
County right now?
They wouldn't.
No.
But that's not to say that the football doesn't matter.
No, but I was saying a lot of clubs are putting that existence in the Premier League and surviving in the Premier League is more important
Yeah,
than these moments.
and we see that a lot in the FA Cup when teams routinely put out a weak
Carabao
side.
Cup.
Yeah,
Carabao Cup's a
and there's a
trophy.
greater-
Man United, Jose Mourinho celebrates the Carabao Cup as if he's won the World Cup every time he wins it.
But there is also an argument you made that does that cup even matter? That's a football match
That's
mattering
something-
that I will easily debate with you.
We'll talk about that in February, but for now it matters fine because
Yeah.
it's a trophy, and these teams should be trying at least. Like that's why I was like, maybe these matches don't matter because there's nothing riding on them. They know they're going to lose. They don't care.
Yeah, there's no elimination afterwards.
Exactly. Southampton losing to Manchester United, although it wasn't that bad in the end of it, they still lost Manchester United.
Yeah, they were okay.
It's a nothing match.
Yeah.
Imagine if that actually had ramifications on their season. Imagine if we split the league up as the season went on. We went into playoff modes.
Like Scotland.
Not so much Scotland. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking back to the US sport comparison. You think about Major League Baseball and how you play a league campaign. Everyone plays the league campaign, the American League or the National
Yeah.
League. And there's all these different inter-league matches as well that count. Everything like that. And then they go to the playoffs.
But the problem is, like, while the playoffs, like, I remember, was it Chicago won the World Series last year? Like, that was an interesting thing as someone who doesn't actually watch baseball. Like, it was interesting to see from the outside. But from what I've read and heard about in more the NFL, I wouldn't be able to speak too much about baseball. But, like, teams see that they get a positive consequence for coming last and they just start tanking their matches. Like, there's that to it as well.
There is that to it, but that is when there's no risk of relegation. I'm not proposing to get rid of relegation at all. I say that's another playoff system in place. When there's no risk of relegation, that behaviour can creep in, and it already has
So
crept
really,
in
the
in Major League Soccer.
the teams that get relegated shouldn't be the last three. They should just be 3 random teams in the bottom 10, and we don't tell them.
we don't
what
tell
3
them until
places
the day that they go down. Yeah, that could be a way.
So that
to do
means
it.
teams want to stay in the top 10.
True. I would propose almost, because the way the playoffs work in baseball is there's a fair amount of teams in there.
Yeah.
You get pennant winners who win the league, say,
Yeah.
which happens in rugby and other sports like that as well. And then they get the best seeding. But then every other team, there's a norm and there's wild cards that get thrown in.
Sure, we see that here ourselves
How so?
in hurling and football.
Oh, in hurling, football and GAA, correct. And they have a backdoor system into it. But imagine where Southampton, who are a good team and can beat teams on their day. Look at the League Cup final last season. They almost beat Manchester United.
Yeah, although there is an argument to be made that they've become flat track bullies in the last.
True, but like say them or Everton, who had a good start to the season before just decimated into nothingness.
By the top teams.
Exactly. Or Stoke, who can beat anyone on their day. Imagine if those teams suddenly get hoisted into this playoff system where they could play 2-leg matches or 3-leg matches.
No, but then there isn't a greater reward for being successful over a 38 match
you
period.
get better seeding.
No, but what's to this? If Stoke can beat anyone on their day, then what does seeding matter to them?
They get an easier tie. It still will come into it. Quality will still come into this. It always does.
I still think a league system is the perfect way to find out who the best teams actually are. The problem might be that there are too many teams a league.
But possibly. That's what I'm trying to do, shorten it up. Maybe we could play a round robin and the league just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. The way the 1950 World Cup final was. It could be a thing. I'm playing devil's advocate a lot with this. I do not think these things will happen. It was often mooted as a European Super League that this.
Yeah, I was going to mention that earlier, but I forgot to.
Yeah, it would eventually lead to a knockout tournament where you'd have a playoff final, a Super League final between the best two teams in Europe.
Who besides the actual clubs themselves would be for this Super League?
I don't know, people who are tired, neutrals who are tired of this. Like, we're in Ireland. We're not like, we are in Ireland if you didn't know, and we're not privy to these teams. We do not have local, Chelsea aren't down the road for us.
Yeah, we don't have any inside sources or anything.
No, but we also don't have a geographical connection with
there's that too, yeah.
Real Madrid aren't here, so technically, I know we all have like persuasions and we all have favourites.
Yeah.
But technically we're not. It's not something that negatively impacts upon us directly.
Yeah.
If I was in Burnley, I would I'm sure I would. But we're only speaking in hypotheticals here.
Yeah.
But it could bring something to the world of football that only, say, a World Cup brings. Like, very few teams can win the World Cup. Very few teams can even qualify for the World Cup under its current format. So people get favourites. People are like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Like, suddenly a match between Stoke and Leicester in this hypothetical playoff becomes like, oh, it's a quarter-final between Algeria and Germany.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's something interesting. Or Ghana playing Uruguay suddenly becomes, that was an international friendly, you wouldn't care at all. But if it's a World Cup quarter-final and it's an extra time.
No, but the fact that it only happens every 4 years makes it special as well.
True, but UEFA have been trying to recapture that magic for years, and they have somewhat succeeded in making the Champions League final a much higher quality football product than a World Cup final, because it's played all year on year, and that allows rivalries to build up. That allows fans to grow into them.
Yeah.
The same way as baseball and the World Series isn't played every 4 years, it's every year. It allows things to mature and change and evolve into it.
Yeah, but I would still say that the World Cup is the pinnacle of football in the sense of as a fan enjoyment.
But I don't think in years to come that it's going to be. I think we're different in age. I think the World Cup is already at a lower level for you than it was for me.
No, but the problem there is also just the fact that the next two World Cups are going to be on in Russia and Qatar. And then after that, it's a new format, which seems ridiculous. Is an absurd new format. I don't think that's necessary to do. Like, if the next World Cup was on in, say, England, where it all...
Well, for us, that would be better. But if you're in Saudi Arabia and you're a young football fan, maybe you want it to be in Qatar.
No,
or if you're in Qatar,
we could still get to Qatar. It's not that that's my point. It's just the conditions of being in Qatar. It's
not going to lend itself to good football.
Yeah,
like Russia may. Well, Russia would be fine.
Russia should actually
for football
be fine.
Quality.
Yeah,
but the next being in Qatar and being somewhere else that is, it will return to United States at the
most likely.
And you could potentially, if television has its way, be playing matches in temperatures in excess of 45 degrees Celsius.
Yeah,
over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And just be absolutely, players walking football effectively.
Yeah, and we kind of saw that in Brazil. Like, if you remember who Netherlands were playing Mexico.
They had to take the
water break. And you could tell the players were too tired for extra time when it came.
It happened, and that's as the tournament went on. More and more matches went to extra time, including the final. I suppose there's more to be talked about with this. Now, we've gone on for too long with this topic, I think. That's
transcended into a different discussion.
Yes, we've gone. It's an existential topic on football, basically. We've gone from does football even matter at this time of the season to does football matter at all, and to
the answer should be yes. This is a football podcast after all.
True, and I have played devil's advocate through this, but it's something I think we should be aware of and thinking of that maybe.
Yeah, no, and it is something I've thought about before. Like, is there any real point to Brighton and Newcastle?
Yeah,
but there is. It's just that we don't have that attachment to Brighton and Newcastle.
Yeah, it's true that it is. We're forgetting that it is not. Football is a global game, but it's also a local game. And for a lot of these teams, historically, it isn't US sports. It isn't just we have the NFL. There's 32 teams in a country of 330 million.
Yeah,
how do we make this work? Europe is a similar geographical size and population wise.
Yeah,
yet we have probably tens of thousands of teams, each potentially could reach the same level.
Yeah.
Given the amount of time. We have hundreds of teams at least that could potentially win the Champions League every year, technically, that would qualify, win their domestic league and could qualify.
Yeah.
So when you can't apply the same rules to those two, they're completely different spectrums. So you can't apply that like US matches don't matter or US matches do matter because there's so few teams, and you can't apply the same logic to Europe. It's still something that I want to think more about, and I would like the listeners to think more about, and tell us what you think about football as it is. Do you think these matches matter? Do you think they don't matter?
Yeah, and what does football kind of mean to you in a way?
Tell us what it means to you. You can contact us at the tfpod@gmail.com. You can tweet us on Instagram at tfpod. Let us know, does any of this matter anymore? Or are we just talking to ourselves? And that was a lovely jingle there. And we're going to move in to the final part of our show, which is the Champions League preview. On Tuesday, the marquee fixture will be Borussia Dortmund and Real Madrid. Match we've spoken about briefly there. Zinedine Zidane having his way with the Germans.
Yeah, that
trying
should
to psych
be.
them out?
That is obviously the tie of the round, but it's on in Dortmund, and I think Dortmund have had a great record against Real Madrid in recent years because they've met several times. Mm-hmm. They've actually built up a rivalry, which we mentioned earlier. Like that's what the Champions League being on every year is allowed.
Yeah.
Because they met when Mourinho was still there. They met in the groups and they met in the semi-finals. They met last season, and Dortmund's getting the better of them every time. They topped the group the year Mourinho was in. They topped the group last time.
They won the Champions League
and they won the semi-final, most importantly. So them meeting again, Real Madrid considered the best team in Europe by far. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, and we've seen that in La Liga. As you mentioned earlier, they're 7 points behind Barcelona. Like, if they're so good, like why are they 7 points behind a team that was supposedly in crisis during the summer?
Well, Zidane would use the point that Ronaldo has not been able to play.
Yeah, but that's just a matter of them relying on Ronaldo then, is it not?
It is. And in fair, I want to give Zidane his kudos here because he's not often thought of as a good manager. I think he's a fantastic manager.
Yeah,
he has brought through a lot of youth, which previous managers kind of left to the wayside. Mourinho didn't go near the youth, and neither did Ancelotti.
Well, he brought in Varane, but that's about it.
Well, he did and he didn't. He brought him in out of necessity due to injuries and suspensions at the time. He was the only player he could play at that position, so that's what happened. But like Zidane has bought well, and he's brought through youth that are playing and they're scoring now, even though they're not winning all their matches in the league. They're still competing, and it's still early days in the league. In Europe, I think they're a different animal. They just kind of have Real Madrid have that presence.
But it takes them a while. It takes them a while to get into it. Like
Ronaldo starts scoring 9 goals.
They almost lost to Legia Warsaw last season in the group.
They did. They almost got knocked out multiple times. Napoli could have taken them easily.
In a group, Napoli could have. Then they went ahead in both the Bernabeu and in Napoli. Mm-hmm. So I think in a group that's as tight as this, I wouldn't necessarily say that they are guaranteed to get out of the group. Like, it seems absurd to think about, but Tottenham beat Dortmund, and Dortmund are an amazing side.
Yeah, what is the story with Dortmund? What is happening? They can't stop winning, can't stop scoring in Germany. Yet,
I think for the Tottenham match,
they beat them at Wembley.
It was unfortunate for Dortmund, of course, with the refereeing incidents, and they were missing key players in that match as well.
True.
Which is why Tottenham, not that Tottenham didn't play well, and they didn't change up their tactics, which was an interesting thing at the time. But you would think that Dortmund, their players are back now. They're at home in this really intimidating stadium, the yellow wall. I do think that they can. You think
Dortmund are going to beat Real Madrid tomorrow night?
They can beat them. I just don't think they're going to lose.
Okay, that's
it's very possible that the match could end up a draw. But I do. I think Dortmund. If the team's going to win, I think it's going to be Dortmund.
Okay, that's fair enough. In other Champions League matches, Spurs in that group are probably going to win.
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah, we'll just say Spurs. But think about it this way: you basically only need 10 points. 9 points will sometimes get you out of a group.
Yeah, I don't think it will in this group just because each team's guaranteed 6.
But correct, but they're already on 6 with 4 matches.
Yes,
to play.
Assuming they do.
They will be on
get
9,
the job done tomorrow.
Yeah, they'll be on 9 if they also beat that team in the second leg.
get a point off.
That's it.
Madrid.
1 point from Madrid or Dortmund at the end of the
and
group.
that could be it.
Yeah. And Spurs think they could get out of this group of death.
Yeah.
But that would also mean another team would get...
Yeah, and it would be impossible. Like, it's crazy to think of Dortmund or Real Madrid not getting out of their group.
No. Double defending champions Real Madrid and the top Bundesliga top is Dortmund.
Yeah.
Getting out of the group, not getting out, that's almost, it's unfathomable for those fan bases. On Wednesday, there's kind of one big match that's overawing anything else. We haven't really spoken about it yet, and we might just delve into it very quickly here. PSG are hosting Bayern Munich, the big boys.
Yeah.
This is the first real challenge to the Neymar vested PSG.
What will Emery bring up?
Well, it's weird. Sepp Mayer's been in the media, famed World Cup winning goalkeeper for Germany in the 70s and Bayern Munich goalie. Manuel Neuer is out until broken foot again until when?
January.
New year, yes.
Yeah.
So they're saying, Neymar is going to play fun with this goalie, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They're trying to do that. And whenever, like Bayern last week when they kept a clean sheet, actually, we did so well to keep a clean sheet. That's what they promoted rather than the victory. So there's a bit of worry even on the home side about this, the fact they're bringing this up. Will Neymar, who sat out Friday when PSG failed to
PSG
win,
said that he had an injury.
He had a foot injury.
Yeah.
So we'll take them as word that's what he was. They weren't being rested for this fixture. Maybe he was.
He is supposed to be back for the match on Wednesday.
He is expected to play on Wednesday night. What will Neymar do with his Bayern Munich side, who are delicate? They're not top of the league. They've dropped multiple points now at this stage. They were a bit iffy in their first Champions League outing this season, not against a great side. What will happen with Bayern Munich?
You would think that Bayern Munich and Ancelotti would be able to set up in a very defensive way, but you don't really think of Bayern Munich as a team that would park the bus. But I think maybe that might be just the smarter thing to do and try to take a point.
Ancelotti is a smart manager.
Yeah.
He's Italian. He did play a 0-0 Champions League final.
Yeah.
That's a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
He managed Juventus. He's managed Milan. He is a clever operator. If he has to sit every player behind the ball.
Yeah, and he knows in a one-off match, which you can say that this is for now, he knows how to look at an opponent's system and set a team up to negate that system and try and outdo them.
And even one player, if that's what the system is built around. Neymar. You cut off Neymar, maybe you cut off the head of the system.
Yeah, and you could see that happened against Montpellier at the weekend. They weren't really as impressive as they had been.
They've structured their team to fit around Neymar.
Yeah, they couldn't score.
That's it. We want to speak a little bit about PSG and about Paris's weird goings on. It was reported in El País in Spain over just recently that the chairman of PSG from the Qatari group offered Edison Cavani €1 million to give up penalty duties, which was met with utter contempt by the Uruguayan. And apparently that's caused a whole other rift in the side. Neymar has come into this team thinking he is the boss, that he already is the World Player of the Year, that everyone should curve to his will. But apparently, according to this piece in El País, that he has not made any friends in the team.
That aren't Brazilian.
Alves has but even so, even Lucas Moura has fallen out with the PSG seniority.
Yeah.
And because with other players, a few revelations came out of this. Neymar has no friends outside of Dani Alves. Dani Alves tried to host a dinner to kind of mend relationships in the past week, and apparently it was described as a funeral, which isn't what you want to hear.
No.
At a party, a dinner, get together of teammates.
Yeah.
He is not welcome there, and on top of that, because UEFA have threatened PSG with expulsion from the Champions League as a possible punishment for their
in the future.
Yes, for their complete flaunting of financial fair play. PSG have to sell a lot of players. Draxler, Di Maria, Lucas Moura,
Cavani
maybe Cavani. But I don't know if he was included in this list. Blaise Matuidi, when he was still at the club.
Yeah, he's gone
Mata
now.
and Silva were all told that they could leave the club and they were surplus to requirements. And they tried to sell as many of those as they could. I think they only ended up selling Matuidi from that bunch.
Yeah, he's at Juve now.
Like, it was well known, and there was a lot of link before the transfer window closed with all of those players.
Yeah, Di Maria was linked with Inter, Draxler was linked with both Arsenal and Liverpool.
Lucas Moura was linked with other French clubs.
Yeah.
And Monaco as a possible make weight in the Mbappe deal. You know, all these players, like Serge Aurier was one of the other ones, and he was sold,
Yeah,
so
he
they could
was
get rid
sold,
of him
yeah.
as well to Spurs. But this is the thing, like half the team hate him. They're losing their jobs because of him. What, you know, we think they're going to just win because they're just that much better than everyone else in France.
But if the team cohesion isn't there, maybe there is room for Monaco to step in and...
Maybe, and like maybe this will throw their whole thing into turmoil. Like, what on earth are Paris doing? Like, we understand that they had to buy that player to bring them to the next level, in both economic terms and in playing terms. But at what cost?
They've sold Neymar a dream that maybe isn't there.
Did they sell their soul for Neymar?
Yeah.
It's such.
I think the really interesting thing, I think Bayern should just do us all a favour and give PSG a penalty to start the match on Wednesday. Just do us all a favour. See what happens. Who takes it?
Oh, that'll be dynamite television. Whoever's watching. On that bombshell of a potential penalty situation occurring on Wednesday night at the Parc des Princes, I want to thank you for listening to yet another episode of the Total Football Podcast. You can email us as ever at the tfpod@gmail.com and follow us on social media at the tfpod. You can follow us individually on Twitter. I'm Combon27 and my colleague Declan is...
At Cheesy Harpun.
Because I can never say that correctly.
No?
Please remember to subscribe, rate and review on whatever platform you're listening to. It does really help us and gets more people into the show. And it just leaves me to say one more thing, and that's thank you to Declan.
Thank you.
Farewell.